Jennifer Tejada, Police Department.
Dante Levy, Emeryville PD.
Nora Davis, Counsel.
Ken Bukowski, videographer.
Anthony Davaya, Watergate Property Security.
Okay, is there any public comment?
Yes, I'd like to make a public comment. I wrote the chief an email about this. I'm concerned about the new city logo because when I look at a police car now, it looks the same as Oakland. The logo may not be the same, but from the distance, I can't tell the difference now between Oakland and Emeryville. And I'm sure I'm not alone. And I think that's significant because I want to know when I see an Emeryville police officer as opposed to an Oakland police officer. So I guess that's already said and done, but those are my comments.
Okay. So the September minutes are fine and they're approved. However, when you send out the agenda, can you send out the minutes to Scott and I so that we can see it ahead of time?
I will do that.
And Dave, you're up next. Alameda County Fire.
Yes, ma'am. We had, pull up here. Thank you. We had 3 building fires under $5,000, 2 vehicle fires, 2 hazmats, which I'll come on in a moment, 49 false alarms, consistent with previous months and years, 6 investigations, 6 service calls, 124 medical calls with a pretty even split of 40 at 34 and 81 at 35. Incidents of note, on September 5th, we responded to Bay Street, the residential over commercial for reports of a dryer fire. It was contained to the area of origin, but as anyone who's been in that building knows, just getting to the unit of origin is a real challenge there because access is tricky. Fortunately, the folks who are assigned here have been spending a lot of time working that area and we're familiar with the access off of the little tiny street with a B about halfway down. It's the only way to get up there. So that they were able to address that one very quickly, which was a notable stop. We had on September 14th on 5980 Horton, response, hazmat level 1 response. There was 50 gallons of a level 3 controlled substance. It was andronine. The banned sports supplement was left in an abandoned business at that location had left that behind. That very small amount of substance, it didn't spill, but the notifications on that, the tentacles were pretty long by the time the FBI, Department of Justice, everyone else, because of the controlled nature of that substance, was involved. That, however, was mitigated without a release. On September 14th,
Do we have any idea where this came from?
it was left by the business that had previously occupied the site was a sports performance laboratory of sorts, and it was left by the former occupants. So there's.
And are we tracking these guys down and charging them for all the time in trouble and danger they cause?
We've definitely submitted a bill. They left because they went out of business. So I don't know that we're going to see.
Well, they must have some assets. You know, we really can't afford to let people just walk away from
Absolutely.
their toxic.
Well, and just to give, I think to give context to the level, I mean, this was reported to the State Attorney General and the FBI, and so those folks are also involved.
Good, good.
But our cost recovery on this is next to none. It was very low chance, and it was very low cost because it hadn't spilled and it was contained to the containers, and that the costs were borne by the private hauler who's contracted with the county who's seeking reimbursement. So the city of Emeryville and the Alameda County Fire Department had very low costs associated with this. Because it didn't spill, we were quickly able to hand it off to the appropriate responsive organizations.
Do you have a written report, fire report?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Uh,
And on your building fires under 5,000, where were they? Were they residential? Aside from the Bay Street one.
The Bay Street, the other one was on, was a apartment building. The fire was on a balcony. The residence was not occupied at the time, so the crews had to force entry. It was initially partially extinguished by the property manager from the balcony above.
What complex was it?
It was at 6363 Christie.
Pacific Park Plaza. Was it a somebody trying to cook something?
There was no one home. So the cause was undetermined. It was reported as a rubbish fire on the balcony of Unit 2926. Met with security personnel, informed us the small fire was partially extinguished by the security member from the patio above. was not completely extinguished, 34, 35, forced entry, extinguished with a water can, and then was able to identify both the security officer and the occupant and contact them to ensure that.
Do we know how it started? That's very serious.
Undetermined. It was very small in nature. It could have been almost anything. I'm speculating here, but typically on something like that, it's because someone's smoking outside. And that
Left
those,
a butt, cigarette butt?
that's, I mean, that, like I said, it was undetermined, but then once you've got some fire and some extinguishment, often it's hard to recreate something that finite. There's just not a whole lot of other activity that causes fire that occur on balconies.
Well, what I'm thinking of, because a fire at Pacific Park Plaza would be very, very serious. Of course, the manager was acquainted with it, informed of it, but what about the homeowners associations, so that they would take care not to be smoking on balconies and throwing your butts wherever you're throwing them, or whatever. But those homeowners should be advised that there was a fire and that the potential for the fire could be quite serious. So if there's a way we can get to the board of directors to have them communicate that to people, that'd be helpful.
Okay,
Especially PPP. I mean,
certainly do that. Let's see, and then our next, we have two more. September, same day as the hazmat event with the androgen, the crews responded on eastbound 80 for reports of an outside fire at a homeless encampment. With traffic control support from CHP, that was rapidly extinguished. That's something we're keeping an eye on.
what was the address there? Was that?
Eastbound 80.
Eastbound 80 or 580?
80.
80.
So it was just short of the Ashby overcrossing, which is a new location for that sort of activity for us. So it's something we're keeping an eye on, mostly because as the homeless encampments at University and Gilman are continued to be impacted by additional Caltrans fencing, there's a very good chance that we'll see more of that sort of activity moving
I've
this
seen
way.
the tents at Frontage Road and University.
Right, as well as at Gilman, there's a significant encampment
But
there as
they
well.
come down to the Emeryville line.
Well, that's what this was the first time we've seen that. What's happening is Caltrans controls most of that land in Berkeley and to a lesser degree in Albany at the Buchanan off-ramp. And Caltrans has been, rather than an enforcement approach, and this is as an observer as I drive by, so I don't know that this is a policy matter, but it appears that rather than using an enforcement approach, they've just been limiting the access. Initially at Gilman, they put out large rocks. And then they eventually fenced off areas, and they're continuing to
I saw
encroach
that at Gilman.
on the available areas. And as those spaces, as there becomes less space available there, you see overflow up Gilman, down on frontage, as well as over by the sports fields, as it sort of bleeds over. And I think it's not unreasonable to expect at some point some of that population is going to make its way south, given that Albany has already gone through this with the bulb and it is taking what appears to be a pretty strict
Did the
enforcement.
police have an ongoing relationship with Caltrans?
No. In the sense that we interact with them regularly, no. But do we know how to contact them and bring issues to their attention? Yes.
Where exactly did this take place? Was it at the Point Emery?
No, it was
North of Point Emery?
just south of the Ashby off-ramp.
That's
north of
Berkeley.
Point.
So what are we doing there?
Well, on the freeway response, anything headed north on eastbound 80 is ours, because Berkeley can't get there. So for Berkeley to get there, they would have to come down to Powell, make a
Right,
U-turn
right.
and go back. And with traffic, that's an auto aid area where anything going south, they take that, anything going north is us. And generally speaking, the informal dividing line is Ashby. And anything south of Ashby is us, and anything north of Ashby becomes theirs because they can access it from the Ashby on-ramp, as a general statement.
So that would be Alameda County Fire, meaning us, not Emeryville
Yeah.
Fire. Alameda County Fire.
Responding from Emeryville Base Station.
So your fire truck, to respond to that call, your fire trucks, did you go on at Powell Street or the on-ramp north of it?
At Powell. At Powell headed with eastbound, but it's really north, headed towards Berkeley. And that's our standard response for anything in that area, to include vehicle accidents. Berkeley sends engines accessing from either University, typically University, but sometimes from Gilman, headed westbound or south, and we send rigs from here headed the opposite direction.
So we don't send our trucks on that on-ramp by the radio station,
At
or Christie
Ashby,
Avenue access.
at the radio station at Ashby.
Yeah. Oh, we're not, we don't get involved north of Ashby. Okay.
No, so we would almost, I mean, never say never, right? If it's big, all bets are off. But on a routine
Right.
basis, we would access, one engine would get on at Powell, headed to the west, and if it sounded interesting, then 35 would access from Ashby, headed east, or sorry, headed south, on westbound, so that we would cover the section of Emeryville from both directions. Oakland sends an engine coming from Oakland to come clear the flyover of the maze, and Berkeley sends an engine headed from University to clear the section of 80 between University and Ashby.
Well, it's all getting more and more difficult because many of those lanes from Ashby south are getting just plugged solid.
Yes.
Have we noticed, and this is for both police and fire, with the getting those monitor lights on, have we noticed more accidents or fires on the freeway or incidents? I know it backs up in our streets and causes us problems there, but in terms of response to freeway break close.
No, we get a lot of accidents, and those are typically in the far left lanes where the merging is coming,
Yeah.
well, it's hard to tell because by the time we get there, if it's minor, it's smooth, but it doesn't have any connection to the lights. And then the fires have a lot more to do with just, if it's going slow and vehicles overheat and catch on fire there. So it is a Bermuda Triangle of vehicle fires, and no one knows why.
Isn't that the damn truth? Go ahead, sorry to
And then
interrupt you.
the last one is September 23rd, crews responded for a level 1 hazmat to the Emeryville Marina fuel dock. A commercial ferry operator had spilled an undetermined amount of gasoline. They were filling, had left it with the stop on, walked away, came back to discover it overflowing. Crews assisted the harbor master in mitigating the incident, and then it was turned over to the Coast Guard for follow-up. And city staff was made aware.
Wait, this commercial ferry operator is already operating out of the marina?
I have no idea if they're taking paying passengers. I know the ferry boat was fueling at the Emeryville Marina.
And how big's that ferry boat?
Oh, it's
It-
50.
Passenger
No,
capacity?
I think it only takes 30.
We got a
It's
picture.
one of the small
It's
ones.
one of the smaller ones. They have, it's not a very deep bottom. They've already received permission from, I don't know if it's the Coastal Commission or whoever governs that permitting.
BCD.
They would be renting the commercial, they already, I guess, rent out a commercial berth down there to the large
Renting a
fishermen.
commercial berth is one thing, operating a ferry service, it's not clear to me that that's within the lease provisions of the marina operators.
So they came and they did a presentation at a department head meeting, I think it was, or not a department head meeting. Maurice scheduled a meeting between the ferry operators, me, Carolyn, himself. I don't know if Fire was there. Just to give us an overview of what they were trying to accomplish. They're already an established business. They're already doing ferry service from there for either Facebook or Google. And I believe they are within the commercial
Activities like the
allowed, yeah. So, because the fishing boat down there takes out people to
Oh, right,
fish,
right.
right? So it's a kind of a
You know,
passenger.
the real problem is the capacity for parking out
Yes.
there. And there's going to be a lot of pushback from the Watergate people about establishing that ferry service.
So, yeah.
I've already started to receive comments because of the stories in the paper.
So I have a lot of experience with ferry service.
Oh, yes, you
Mhm.
would.
With over, like 1.5 million visitors in Sausalito a year, and the ferry terminals there, and the traffic backup and traffic jams that just was horrendous. So I did talk about that at the meeting. I'm very familiar with it. So we'll be keeping our eye on it.
Good.
With
I
30.
mean, where are they going to park the cars for people
They're
to go
going to
there?
park down at the marina, or they were going to, I believe, have some means of transporting people down to the ferry. You know, we don't know all the details, but
And the devil's in
parking,
the details.
the devil is in the details, but parking is, and traffic is primary concern to me because I see what can happen
Well,
if
I
we
hope
don't
one
have
of
that
the
taken
things
care
that
of.
they consider as the staff continues to work with the ferry people is that there's some sort of requirement in there that they deliver the people to the ferry, that they don't, you know, like Uber or however they do it, because that parking lot down there many times is at capacity, and if you had people taking their cars in there and dumping it all day, people wouldn't be able to use the public park. There's no place to park for Emeryville.
Right.
Context, it's a 40-foot boat, so it's not, when we say ferry, it's not what you think of as a bay ferry.
Right.
So it's
right.
Very
in
yeah.
similar size to the fishing charters that run out of it.
So that could be 30 more cars down there parked all day, and that could be a problem. Anyhow, move
So-
along. I have enough ranting now.
No, I'll ask Maurice where they are because he's their contact, and maybe we can have a presentation at the next meeting.
I would like that, and would you ask Maurice about whether or not there's going to be a separate contract to permit them to operate in Emeryville that would go before the council?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Dave?
That concludes the fire report.
Very good. And Adrian,
Good morning.
you had a busy month.
We had, we're busy. 259 Part 1 crimes for September. This is a 22% increase year to date. Looking at our violent crimes are up year to date 37%. But when we look at our robberies for the month of September, we had 8. And they're up 43% year to date. But of these 8, we had a short pattern of juveniles and adult teens robbing females of their cell phones. We had 4 of those. 2 of the kids we arrested, 66 in Vallejo and in front of Bev Mo. Those 2 are related. They're the same kids that did those. There was a 3rd kid that got away. But then in front of Chase, we arrested a 19-year-old for the same crime, doing the same thing, snatching a cell phone from a female while she was talking on it.
Are these juveniles going into the juvenile diversion program?
Not the ones that commit robbery.
No, yeah, not for the violent
No,
felons.
not for violent felons.
That's another question I have on the reports that we get weekly. I don't see any more, any note of that any juveniles are being arrested or, so is that something we're leaving off the report? It's something that's
No.
very important to have on there.
Our average of juveniles arrested monthly has gone way down. So for
Good,
this
good.
month, we've only arrested 3 kids, 2 of which were responsible for the robberies, and 1 that was cited and released for shoplifting. She's been recommended for youth
Oh,
diversion.
good,
Yeah.
good. The more we can divert the nonviolent, the violent, that's a different thing, but the nonviolent.
So moving down to aggravated assaults, they're down year-to-date 19%, but we did have 1 case, although it shows 2 here, we had 1 case where 2 victims were inside of their resident, 6200 Doyle Street. An unknown suspect fired 1 shot into the front siding of that unit. The victim said they didn't know who he was because the male half looked out the peephole and didn't recognize who the person was. So we're not sure why he opened fire. Just 1 shot. Nobody was hurt, but it was 2 victims that was inside.
Adrian, traditionally, the county has been very careful as to whom they rent those apartments to, and we've had, over the years, tell me if I'm wrong, but we've had very little criminal activity there. Is that, that pattern holding true with
Yeah, very
6200 Doyle?
Very little.
Good.
Mhm. Now, simple assaults, they kind of shot up through the roof this month. We had 6 in August and we went from 6 to 17 in September, and that's because quite a few of those cases had more than one victim, so we count assaults per victim. So, and at least 7 of these cases involve domestic violence. And so they are up 60% year to date. But now, looking at our property crimes, the real problem that our city faces are auto burgs. So they're way up. We had 113 in September, and they were occurring in the area of Denny's, Powell Street Plaza, a few over at the Black Bear Diner, a couple over at Bay Street Mall. We had some over at the plaza, at the public market, a couple over at Emery Point, and then we had some down in the south end of our town. We did identify 2 suspects. One which we have issued a Rainey warrant on, who we know was responsible. We have him on video. He had broken into some cars over at Panera Bread sometime last month. And we've had contact with him before for the same thing in 2014. And this other guy that we had identified, we couldn't prove that he did anything, but he fit the description, his vehicle and him, he fit the description of a guy that was driving around the plaza breaking into cars. He had broken glass on the floorboard of his car and some flashlights. So anyway, that's our problem really for Emeryville's auto burgs, and we are diligently working on this problem, identifying suspects. Commercial burglaries, we are down year-to-date 14%. There's really no pattern, but we did have one that occurred over at KFC around 4:30 in the morning, I believe it was. We had the drive-through window smashed. Suspect went through the window, entered the business, into the office, ransacked the office, found the cash box, and stole $500. Yeah. Residential burglaries, we had a pattern of garages broken into where bicycles were stolen. No suspect descriptions on that. And they are up 24% year to date.
And these are open cages. I mean, these are not locked areas. These are unlocked areas.
Well, in the apartment complexes, you have storage units that are caged.
Yes.
Some are caged, some have lockers. So
it's a mixture of both.
Yeah, and in the residential area, I believe it was Vallejo Street, the garage was open, and the person just went in and took a bicycle and a couple other things. Yeah. So moving on down to mental illness, we went up a little bit in that category. We're up from 17 in August to 27.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of aggressive behavior, people rambling incoherently, and
Of
not
that
taking their
27,
meds.
how many are repetitive?
Don't know. I didn't look at that. I
You know,
didn't get
because
that answer.
we have certain people that we know that just constantly, we're picking them up over and over and over again. So if of that 27, maybe 10 or something were repeat. We
I
want to
can
get a
check.
grasp on how many individuals there are. So we have to know how many are repeaters. Can we get that for next time?
Yes.
I have a question about this. I can imagine that you as police get to be good at identifying mental illness versus drug-induced mental states. Is that something you can see pretty clearly if you're an officer on the street, or not necessarily?
No, we're not experts in that, and a person who is high from narcotics, yes, we can identify that. But if there's a mental health component, sometimes that's a kind of a gray area.
Mhm.
And the mental health issue could be related to abuse of narcotics. So if somebody is, mental health is such a broad spectrum of conditions. So if somebody is despondent, somebody is maybe bipolar, suicidal, those might be easier to identify, maybe case-by-case basis,
Yeah.
than figuring out if somebody is on drugs or just having some sort of psychotic episode as a result of doing drugs. So it's not, we're not psychiatrists, we're not trained
Yeah.
to identify. So we do the best that we can given the circumstance at hand. Are they just under the influence of drugs? Or is there some sort of mental health issue
This is,
associated with it?
I'm realizing in our town, the narcotics use is more extreme than I thought.
Mhm.
Partly because of a tour that I went on recently at Home Depot based on another issue.
Right.
And I went out the back door along their back fence,
Mhm.
and the number of used needles on the ground, and they picked them up because they're afraid of their workers getting stuck by these used needles right along that whole fence that's actually in the city of Oakland. And I recognize this is a problem for us on our border,
It is.
that right there just is undeniable drug use happening. And they, of course, are at Home Depot really concerned about this from all kinds of ways. But they're claiming that a lot of their shoplifting issues have to do with the traditional, gotta get my fix, and the people say that.
Mhm.
We have to pay for it.
We have to pay
And
for it.
just like the 459 autos, the auto burglaries, same thing. They have to get a certain amount of money to be able to support their daily habit.
And so that's a lot of the people doing these crimes really are the people that are drug addicted.
Not all of them, but quite a few.
So
Yes.
say most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
So, it's a complex issue, and we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Prop 47, the result of that, one of the issues is the lack of connecting these petty theft, these misdemeanor crime offenders to drug rehab, to forced drug rehab or treatment.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. What is happening is that the LEAD program I spoke about before, the Law Enforcement Assisted Drug Diversion, so I will be bringing together, I've spoken to Berkeley and some other agencies around. $15 million is available to the state of California for 3 pilot programs. Emeryville alone doesn't have enough to say, we want that $5 million, give it to us, we can use it. So what I've done is I've reached out to our neighboring agencies to come together to see what we can do to bring $5 million to the East Bay, Oakland, Berkeley, that corridor, and work together rather than, I'm sure LAPD is going to grab the $5 million chunk.
Yeah.
The larger agency. So my thought is let's just collaborate and work as
That
a
seems
team.
like an excellent plan, and
to
it sounds
bring it
like I
together.
should talk to our adjoining council people from Oakland
Would
about
love
this.
Oakland to participate.
Yeah, this
So
is,
the LEAD works on a defined geographical area. So for us, Berkeley and Oakland are key. So we just have to get together. The RFP for this was actually decided. They had 2 full-day meetings. I think it's yesterday and again today. The committee that was formed to develop the RFP for this. So that's in development. I'm trying to get ahead of it and get our group organized, get our stats, get our geographical area defined, so that we're ahead of this when the RFP comes out and we're ready to explore it further.
Well, it's going to greatly enhance the opportunity, I think, to be awarded that if we demonstrate jurisdictional cooperation. That's going to be a big plus.
I hope so. I hope
It's
that's
usually
part
a-
of the RFP.
Well, I mean, it could only be good to include, certainly you get Oakland in there, and that's
Yeah.
going to be a big plus
do
for
we have a
us.
gray zone with the JPA arrangement with Oakland on our, on our border there? We have this JPA agreement where we take care of the policing, but does that include, they're in effect giving us the tax monies from those properties for policing?
Oh, I
forgot
don't
how-
think so. I don't think so, but that is something that Michael Gina's been trying to get to, is to do some research for our moving forward with the dog park. Because that's one of the issues, is how do you handle the jurisdictional?
Yeah.
But the dog park isn't in the JPA footprint.
No.
It may not be, but,
It's
yeah,
pure Oakland, it's not
Okay.
within the, I don't think.
okay.
But Jennifer, I have another question on these 51, actually, these aren't 5150s, but this is the people, and we have something like 750,000 people in the state of California that are on the autism spectrum. And I see that San Francisco and San Jose have developed that film, that training film, as to how you approach people with autism, and I'm wondering if that's something our people could at least take a look at.
They've already had that training, Nora. We're putting everybody, we're almost there. We're putting everybody through a crisis intervention training. It's a 40-hour block, and a chunk of it is about autism and that spectrum, and
How
to
differently they
recognize
react to voice
yes,
command.
and that or eye contact is
Yeah,
a big
exactly.
part. All of those behavioral cues that would allow an officer to assess the person and why the person is responding in such a way, and put it into that,
So all of our people will have that training.
including dispatchers.
Good.
And
good.
doesn't that also go directly to use of force?
Yeah.
Questions that have been coming up about
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
those judgments.
Right.
Well, speaking about use of force, this unfortunate thing that happened over the weekend with the 2 policemen down south, what are we doing to protect our police officers who go out on these domestic calls where you don't know who's behind that door?
Mhm.
How are we training them to protect themselves as much as they can from people who obviously want to kill policemen?
Well, we oftentimes don't know they obviously want to kill, right? So every call that we get, Nora, has an element of the unknown.
Yes.
Whether it's domestic violence, a sexual assault, or just, I want to report a burglary or an auto, theft, whatever it is. Every crime that we respond to has that unknown element for the officers. So we emphasize officer safety all the time. The captain and I meet weekly to discuss operations on the street, and we evaluate those incidents from those optics of, was this a safe tactic by the officers? What could they have done differently? The captain is meeting with the officers and the sergeants, reviewing every case. We're just trying to instill in the officers this sense of, let's take a step back, let's take our time. Is there another way to achieve the outcome without jeopardizing the safety of yourselves, other people at the scene? It's a big push that we are doing right now. A lot of younger officers, and we see it in our department, are gung-ho. They want to get in, they want to get hands-on, they want to take care of business. So we are pulling them back, saying, let's take a step back, evaluate before you do that. What's the outcome you're looking for? Is there another way to achieve that?
Well, let me ask you something. Can our force learn anything from this incident that happened? 2 officers go up and knock on a door and a guy blows them away. How do you avoid something like that?
I don't know the details of that, but we're all taught not to walk up in front of a door, but to come from the side and knock. So I don't know the circumstance.
I mean, do police jurisdictions share that kind of information so that they learn
yes.
from how to avoid something like that?
We debrief.
Tragic.
Yeah, so there will be a comprehensive debrief of that incident once the dust settles. All of our, Cal Chiefs Conference, all the officers' conferences, there will be sort of a traveling show to debrief that incident from all kinds of perspectives. And, you know, that's, we'll
Because
learn
there
from
is
it.
this, it appears to be a very aggressive mode of thought now that's developing that's very antagonistic to the police.
Yeah.
And we certainly don't want to put our force at risk.
There's a lot of conversations during lineup also, and then we have, like today we'll have a field service meeting with the sergeants. We discuss certain issues and issues that it comes back up to us also, because the officers on the street are the ones that are seeing it.
Right, right.
Not us. We're debriefing it after, so they're bringing it up to us, and then we bring it back down to them, and we try and come to a consensus so those 2 officers didn't die in vain.
Whole different attitude.
Yeah.
Whole different attitude.
We have the other element of this is how did that guy get that gun? You know,
Yeah,
that
see,
was-
that was sort of my, overall question. We have some
And he
new
had-
proposed legislation on the upcoming
Right.
ballot that's trying to introduce some kind of gun control, I guess through ammunition as well.
Yeah.
Do you think this could be effective if this passes? It could help reduce some of the gun violence in all directions we're seeing.
Well, I
in
think
our
we limit
state.
the supply, obviously, but the most of the criminals who have weapons don't obtain those weapons through legal means anyway. And we have, a lot of weapons coming into California from, other states. It makes it more difficult for them to acquire them. Criminals will not generally go through the legal system of going into a gun store, providing their identity to get a weapon. But anything that we can put in place to make that more difficult for them will, I hope, impact
Maybe there's a little hope if ammunition degrades over time. Then if they have to buy new ammunition, that makes it more, but does ammunition degrade over time or no?
Not that I'm aware of. But
And so a typical weapon that we take off the street is it'll shoot like a certain caliber, but you'll have all kinds of different rounds in there. They'll put in whatever they can find, and it does degrade, but they over time, but it takes a long time for it to degrade.
So we have to answer your question, one of the things that we have done to give the officers another layer of protection is we've put ballistic vests, threat level 5 in each car. So when they go to a scene and there is that high-powered gunfire, they have that extra protection. What else have we done?
The ballistic helmets.
Ballistic helmets.
And then the 2 calls, 2
Two
officers,
officers per
we give the
call.
discretion to the sergeants to give to their team whether they want to go 2 officers per call. Of course, like somebody flags somebody down at the police station for a ticket sign-up, we won't send 2 officers there. But a domestic, there's usually 2 or 3.
Good.
At least
Right.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Adrian, we're giving you a bad time today.
We're almost sorry. One more thing on the LEAD program, it's not just about drugs, there's also a mental health intervention as part of that program. I keep forgetting to say that because it's law enforcement assisted drug diversion, but there's a mental health intervention component to it as well.
Okay, so arrests, we arrested 47 adults, 13 were cited, 34 were booked. We only have 1 repeat offender adult, and he was booked twice. And then we arrested the 3 juveniles that I mentioned earlier. Then the next page shows a year-to-date chart for juvenile and adult arrests. And you can see that we are down when you look at the 2016 graphs. For adults, we're down like 32%, and juveniles were down 46% compared to the previous year. We're not seeing a lot of stores reporting thefts of juveniles.
That's good.
Yeah, so, and that's about it. Our Part 2 crimes are down 10% also.
Why is
as
that?
well.
Our reduced arrests.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time too.
Well, some of the stores are not, one store came up, was it CVS? Somebody is not pursuing charges anymore. Was it CVS? One was CVS.
Yeah.
CVS isn't pursuing charges anymore? This is a corporate policy?
Yeah, so,
A lot of these, so they're kind of facing the times also, so they get, if you take somebody into custody and they have to use force to hold them there, it's not worth it to the companies. So a lot of times they'll just.
And Home Depot is not handcuffing people anymore.
Correct.
So there's, so
Again,
they're
there's-
seeing the impacts of the increased volume of people who are, you know, committing these petty crimes.
Work in the system.
And they're becoming more violent also.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And the Home Depot says that their typical, well, they didn't use the word typical. The people that need their drug money know the $950 limit for
Yeah,
getting arrested, and they're actually calculating,
Sure.
yeah.
so they won't be
Another-
arrested.
Another
They're on
Prop
their budget.
47 nuance.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
their IQ is not going down.
No. And they know when they can make a complaint of something that's wrong with them, that they know that we have to have them cleared first and
Yeah.
sit at the hospital, and they know we
Right,
incur
right.
the cost.
Yeah, so
We only have so much money to deal with.
it's like you're
They're not
constantly
making it
having
easy
to
for
invent
you. No.
new ways of doing things. It
Yeah.
doesn't stop. It's
Well,
cat and mouse
You know.
for eternity.
it is, and it is a game to some of them. It is this, you know, the 5150, the person who gets arrested, I want to kill myself. Now we've got to go
Oh,
to
right,
George,
right.
we've got to get clearance, and then we got to go to the jail, and then, you know, there's a whole system in Alameda County that I think needs fine tuning from our perspective in terms of getting people cleared for incarceration. One of the things that I've done, because we can only take females to Santa Rita Jail. So when we arrest a female, the officers have to drive all the way out there. So I met with the new chief of Berkeley on Monday or Tuesday and asked him, they have a jail and they can accept females. So I asked him if we could explore a contract with them for
Good,
them
good,
to
good,
accept
good.
females. And even, you know, whatever they would charge us, our overtime.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
To
Outweighs.
take people there
Right.
is
That's great.
gonna
Yeah.
be a huge savings if we can get this contract. And I think we can. He seemed very, I had started the conversation with the previous chief and then picked it up again with the new chief. And he and I go way back. I know him from my days when I was
Good.
at UC Berkeley and I was doing community work. He was a cop on the beat, so we know each other quite well. And he was very positive about this, so I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a step in the right
Yeah,
direction.
and it'll
It's
save.
who
Have
you
more
know.
women.
It's who you know, right?
I know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
But it seems like women are becoming more criminal as we go through the, you know, we're seeing more women show up in the statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Adrian. See, popular topic.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay.
A couple of things that we did this month that I think were positives for law enforcement. I think we should include that in our report to you rather than just statistics and overtime. What are the positives that we are doing in the community? One of them was we did Coffee with a Cop. It was National Coffee with a Cop Day last Thursday.
I got the pictures.
So, yeah, so we went out to Pete's and we had a lot of people stop by.
Oh,
and
good,
we
good, good.
had some great conversations, you know, and people wanted answers and they wanted to know how we do what we do, why we do what we do. A lot of people, a lot of support for what we do from the community members. So it was a positive thing. We'll do more of that as our staffing and time allows us. I would hope to do it once a month. We did a movie with the kids at ECCL. The movie was Zootopia, which is a Pixar Disney movie. It's about a young rabbit, female rabbit, who wants to become a cop. So it had a lot of positive messages about you know, not discriminating against others because of their stature, their size, their who they are. It had a lot of anti-bullying messaging, so it was a really good movie for cops and kids to see together. It was a lot of fun. We had hot dogs, we had popcorn, we had lollipops during the movie. That what did she call them? Paw Pops.
And what grades came to the movie?
It was, I think, mostly elementary school kids, but there were
Good,
some middle school kids. Christian Patz was there with his son, Atticus. Atticus and I got to dance together, and Kristen said it was a great event. John Bowders was there. It was a really good event for us to have that positive interaction with kids. And we had a show and tell table. They were able to put on uniform shirts or jackets, and we had the books, the Zootopia storybook that we gave away. So it was something new for us, and I hope we get to do it again, because ECCL was perfect. That courtyard inside, safe. Sprinters went off on one side during the movie. But Stacy and a few of us got those taken care of. So that was a good, positive event for this month. I think that's it. Yeah.
It occurs to me if I can just run upstairs, because if I can give an update on something that I was advised of by the city of Oakland regarding homeless.
Oh, good. While Carolyn's gone, are you having any difficulties with ECCL in terms of how they're maintaining your gates for security? And is there any kind of negative activity going on around ECCL?
We've not been called to the school for anybody outside the ECCL community, with the exception of a couple of parents who were there because of their kid in the school, but not strangers walking in from the outside. We haven't had any calls like that. The calls that we've had are mostly disgruntled parents creating a scene. Last week,
We had a restraining order served on one of the parents, and they ended up getting the person that was serving it. Got into a fight with the mother, and but we were there. We were actually at the school, so we broke it up, and everybody got a citation. Sent home.
The process server got into a fight?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Carolyn, what do you got?
Okay, so I got a phone call the other day from Sabrina Landreth, administrator for the city of Oakland, and she wanted to give our city a heads up that they're going to be engaging in a pilot program for providing services in place to the homeless. And this would be at 35th and Magnolia.
Oh, for God's sake.
It is temporary. And just to get quickly to that point, it would be underway in approximately starting this Monday. And it would be dismantled. This would be a services in place kind of, I don't know, I hate to call it encampment because then that sounds more permanent, but in any case, March 31st, the site would be dismantled. So what she said was they'd be closing off Magnolia under the freeway. They will have K-rail and or, I don't know, cyclone fencing to block off to block off traffic, but not to include sidewalk access. The sidewalks would remain open.
Okay, remind me of Magnolia
Well,
on our border, where it goes Peralta,
yeah,
Magnolia.
you guys know.
It goes
better.
Peralta, Magnolia.
So Magnolia is closer to San Pablo.
So Magnolia dead ends into our
Right into
housing.
So
Yeah, right into the
Lower laundry
it's
building.
down here.
The
Right.
ambassador? Is that
The ambassador.
Yeah. Yes, behind the ambassador, right? So there's 37. So is it down?
It's back down here.
Back in this area.
Yeah.
But so it doesn't, there's
The
no
map
through
doesn't cover it.
sidewalk into Emeryville, or there is?
No,
I don't remember.
Well, there-
no, Magnolia,
Peralta has a sidewalk.
right, but
yes,
Magnolia doesn't.
Magnolia, so it dead ends into the freeway?
Isn't that the one that runs along
No,
the tracks?
Magnolia dead ends into the Ambassador. It used to run in front of the Ambassador, and then when we
Closed it down,
retrofitted the Ambassador, we closed it down and made it more of an open patio type
Correct.
thing. But no, I don't understand this. Their services in place
Mhm.
have the intention of getting these people homes to go to? Is that
Yes.
the idea?
Yes, that is
That's-
the end goal, is to get as many into permanent housing as possible. It's also important to note that their intent is not to become a magnet for additional new residents, so to speak. It really is to take the 35 to 40 people that are currently there and to kind of set this service area up for those folks who are already there. And I'm sure that's the short notice, and I'm sure it's the quick, assemble it, take it down kind of thing, is that they're not looking to grow this at all. It is a phase one, is how they described it. I think it's a pilot program.
Are they going to put a trailer in there?
What they would be putting in is sanitation services.
Oh, my God.
And outreach, public outreach or social services outreach. I'm sure that obviously it would include folks who can advise on housing opportunities. They'll be availing themselves of the county services that already exist.
But they're not going to allow any more people to come in.
That is true.
How are they going to control that?
Don't know how all that works. And I think, they probably would be able to address it more fully. I'm sure they have a pretty good idea of how they plan to control it. I'm sure they've taken a census. I'm sure of that already, of who's there. And so the intent is to control the
And
population.
they're not going to allow any new people to come in?
Correct.
And hopefully, as they work with these people one by one, they will be given
Placed.
housing or something like that
Mhm.
someplace else.
And I think that there's a recognition that, folks have different situations, and, some will more quickly lend themselves to being placed than others, and others may have an ongoing problem that doesn't give them the opportunity to be placed in permanent housing. But I think it's kind of their way to do a pilot program to maybe plan services in the future, maybe more expansively. But the other thing is that they would like to approach our city for a donation to help to contribute to the cost of this temporary program. So obviously I did not make any commitment. I think that you could be looking, I did talk to Catherine in housing, but did a little brainstorming there and talked about the possibility of utilizing contract services that we already have in place in our city, and to perhaps temporarily expand those services, whether it's sanitation pickup, like garbage pickup. We already have, obviously, the services of our waste management
I'm
folks.
certainly open to this and would
It
like
could
to have
be
it
porta potties.
like to see it on a future agenda.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like
Could be
an
social
interesting-
services,
you know,
counseling.
This is a little different and a test to see if it will have some positive impact. I think it's worth
And then they'll
participating in-
evaluate.
Yeah, and then we'll evaluate. I like it that it ends March 31st, so we can evaluate.
Mhm.
It's through
And
the
at-
winter months.
At what point in time are we going to inform the residents of that area, like the people in the...
They've already
ambassador?
been informing
Vicky Jo's been
the,
informed?
who?
Vicky Jo Hill? She runs the community garden there.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
She's
know
kind of a
whether they
leader
have
in that
far.
little community. And so the only people who've been advised of this have been the ambassador.
No, I don't know. I don't have the description. Perhaps I could get Catherine to reach out to the city of Oakland and get more specifics on, okay, exactly who they have reached out to, so that we know.
And a description of what the program is,
Mhm.
what the end date is, what the aims of it are. This is the type of thing, if it's done correctly, you can get the support of the community. If all of a sudden porta potties just start springing up there and the community is not advised of it, you're gonna have a little firestorm.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if Catherine could get just a brief description, one-page description, when it's gonna start, when it's gonna end, what the controls are, what the benefits will be to the people getting placed in homes.
A white paper or something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
summarizes
but
the
let's
whole
get,
thing.
let's get ahead of the curve with the community so we
My
have
guess
support.
is that if they had done very aggressive outreach to include Emeryville, you'd be hearing about it. And so we
Yeah,
haven't heard anything.
I'm surprised I've heard nothing about this.
We have heard-
Given
Well-
we were attending this West Oakland
Right,
group,
and the other
why
thing
have we
is,
not heard?
I don't think the West Oakland people have been informed of this either, because they have been very antagonistic.
Lauren Westridge, for example, I know has an
Exactly,
interest
and
in
the
this.
group that we attend.
Well, I wouldn't say they've been antagonistic to something like, they think that they would need, they're
They want
saying
it cleaned up.
that they want it cleaned up,
Oh.
and if social services will somehow clean it up, great, whatever it takes
Right.
is their
But they should
attitude.
be, let's work with them, bring it to the table. I'm
I'll go
surprised,
ahead and.
I'm surprised Sabrina hasn't done that already.
I think they are purposely keeping this on the down low, keep it simple, and hoping to.
Putting a porta potty next to a very dense housing situation that has already had some difficulties
Is a
from this
red
group.
flag right there.
Let's.
Yeah, but it might not be so directly in front of, I have to go look at the site, we'll see. It
No,
might-
no,
it
it's
might
not
be a-
being
it might
directly
be
in
a-
front of,
Might
but
be
it-
a good location. Yeah, I mean, you
It
can
won't be
visualize the
ours.
place.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good location for this? Or meaning not good in an overall sense?
It's a problem.
If it has to be in
Right,
that
it'll
area.
address a certain
You
part
gotta
of their
say-
population,
Yeah.
segment of their population, for sure.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
they chose it because it probably is easily contained,
It's
it's
a
a
Yeah.
Well,
number
it's
of.
small,
Yeah, it's a
and
small
It is.
number of people.
might be able to make it, but they should get the participation of the surrounding community, because the more eyes you have, the better.
Yes.
And the
Well, I
support,
think that's
rather than just
definitely
be
their
adversarial,
intent.
we're gonna put this in your neighborhood and you have nothing to say
Oh, no,
about it.
that's, they are working to avoid that.
Well, they should.
But I don't know
You
that
let
they
people
reached,
know.
yeah, I don't know that they reached
Because you
out.
guys are gonna take the fall out.
No, because they will need to talk to Beach Street and Park Avenue, and we have some people in that neighborhood who are very concerned about the presence of homeless. One of the things that we should anticipate happening is that, like you said, some of those people will go along with the program, and others who do not want to be in anybody's line of sight will leave that area and set up camp somewhere else. So
That's true, there's nothing that says that you can
Stay
keep
there.
them there either, so.
Right.
You're
So we
right.
can
that's-
anticipate a
It
little
could
bit
be a
of overflow.
self-selecting
It would be.
population actually that way.
Well, that's why we wanna get that dog park under the
Yeah.
overpass finished and complete, so we don't have that type of intrusion. And we want the lights and the security cameras there.
Okay, yeah, for future agenda items, I'd like to talk about.
What the progress is in that.
Well, yes, but citywide use on our city properties of security cameras.
Oh, good.
just to
good.
talk about it. Positive, like,
I vote yes.
yeah, let's just,
I vote yes.
let's look at it, discuss it, what it costs, what the issues are, the negatives, the positives. It just seems like the rest of the world is doing it.
You're talking about the license plate readers, for example, is one
Well,
of
no,
the.
No, I'm talking about
Military-
security cameras.
The actual
Security cameras
cameras.
Right.
that almost every store has. Well, we have control of a lot of
Mhm.
public places. Perhaps we should have some security cameras as well.
Key.
And we
Because
have
it-
our, we have public parks and we have sidewalks. And
Exactly.
we could maybe do better as a city with more security cameras.
And we have a
We-
segment of the population that is anti-police, anti-control, and we are in the 19th century as far as dealing with that,
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
We have got to move
there
to
are,
the
there are
21st
civil
century.
rights issues about privacy, and we have to discuss the
But
big
those
picture.
are well defined
Public
as far as
right-of-way.
where
Public-
we
yeah.
can and
Yeah.
cannot aim
Right.
that
Well-
camera.
Well,
So
let's
those-
talk about it.
Has to be only
Well,
public.
Correct, and
yeah, that's good.
those cameras would be the same concept of our own vision. What we can see with
Exactly.
our eyes, the camera could see.
Right.
So if we're in the wrong place, then yeah, we can't do it.
Yeah, it just, in and of itself would act
Yeah,
as a
like the
deterrent
technology,
for a
so
lot
we
of-
could have,
Okay, guys, moving along.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
running out of time here.
member comments, I guess, right?
Just real quick, the overtime? If I can give you the
Oh,
overtime.
yes.
So we spent, the good news is we spent $3,773.50 less than we did in September. Our big costs were, of course, the minimum staffing for both sworn and non-sworn. But we did have training where we sent all of our officers through the our range program, up in Dublin. So that was a good chunk of the money also.
Now, we're not gonna have to pay for the lead and the bullets out in Dublin after we're all finished up there, are we?
No,
Yeah, they have the
they're
index.
responsible for that.
Okay.
So we do have good news. I looked at our training overtime. We have been, as you know, one of my priorities was to get us up to compliance with post for our mandated training. We are really close. I met with Michelle yesterday and she said we've never been this,
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's very good.
Online.
yeah, so we're really close to finishing out the year with everybody having their post-mandated training. So it's been a cost because we have to pay people to go to
Yeah.
training, we have to pay for the training. But I'm happy to report that we are really close. There were only about 7 names on the list of sworn people who still have some hours to complete. And I think 4 people on our professional staff who need 3 or 4 days of training to complete theirs. So we're getting that under control. That's good.
I have a member's comment. I like that insignia. I think it looks great.
I do too.
Yeah.
actually.
Well, as I
Does it ruin
said,
it?
the officers, the staff, they wanted to have City Hall on their patch, and this was something that was in the works when Ken James was here. And I think they're very proud to have City Hall on their patch, and you should.
I missed the controversy. What's controversial about it?
No, Ken doesn't like
Ken
the patch.
doesn't
He
like
wants
it.
to go back to the way it was.
Because you can't identify an Emeryville car from an Oakland car from a distance. It doesn't matter what the detail of patches. The blue used to separate the
I
identification.
mean, on the police cars themselves.
Yeah, you can't see the difference, and that's important.
But if you're in Emeryville, you should be fairly certain that the cars you see are Emeryville cars.
Oakland is enough.
Oakland is so
You
busy
don't see a cop
We
car.
have to
coming
do-
in here and doing our work
That
for
is
us.
sad but true.
They'll come over and eat lunch every once in a while, which is good for our commerce.
Sad
Yeah.
but true.
Okay, we ready to go?
Well, any other, I might
I didn't
just
say I didn't like
say
it.
that, okay, here's another wacky idea for me, that somehow the state of California, when it comes to designing, all the things that try to limit the problems with petty thefts, shoplifting, and the things that control what it costs to process someone who's high on drugs, it should be everything should be changing all the time because the population adapts to whatever the rules are and exploits. So therefore, every ordinance and or law about this should be like encryption. It should all be constantly morphing within a parameter that legislators set.
Right.
But the people on the street cannot predict what their life is going to be like so easily. So that's my...
It sounds like the Matrix to me, Scott.
Well, I'm just saying that maybe we have to think about doing our state laws like the world of encryption does every day, right now,
Right.
so that those who are constantly, utilizing our system for our collective worse, have it be less predictable, but still, certain rights are maintained. That's all.
But then how long the cops are gonna have to constantly change
Well,
what you
they
can
really
fight for and what you can't.
That's right, but it'll be within a range. It's just a new idea. What can we do? I don't see.
Monday is for burglaries, Tuesday is for threats.
No, I don't mean it like
So they
that.
don't know what we're gonna arrest for today.
But they, like if a particular woman is fearful of, or looking forward to not being arrested because they know she's got to go all the way out to Santa Rita. Oh, all of a sudden she's going to Berkeley. Oh, I don't want to end up there. Oh, then she might be going to, instead of Dublin, she's going to Hayward. Oh no, just anything to mix it up. That's all.
Keep them on their toes.
Hey,
Yes,
Scott, you
keep 'em
gotta
on their toes.
Push that idea up to Sacramento before Jerry
Okay.
Yes.
leaves. He's up
Jerry
for
would love that.
He would love it. Are we done here, guys?
Thank you.
Jennifer, I just want to say, and